Okay, well, welcome everyone to the DSpace5 release webinar. I'm Laura Waugh here with Ryan Steans, and we're glad you all could make it. If anyone has trouble hearing us during the webinar or any other things, questions, just type it in the chat window. So this webinar was brought together by the DSpace5 working group, and huge thank yous for all the hard work they did. And that's Susan Elkins. Oh, sorry, it looks like Baylor is not hearing anything now. Are you calling in on the telephone or?
Is anybody else hearing us? It's always good when Houston's getting signal. Okay, I'm not entirely certain.
Maybe I should try the.
Well, I'm thinking maybe. Let me check here. No, that was still on bidirectional.
You are no longer muted.
Okay.
Maybe that was the problem.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, Baylor, we hope you can hear us now. And thanks everyone for your patience. Great. But yeah, we just wanted to say thank you to the DSpace5 working group, Susan Elkins, Robert Luttrell, Alexandra Mitchell, Laura McElfresh, Narissa Lindsay, La Yang, and Ryan Steans. And Ryan is going to get us started with the webinar today. One other note is we are recording this webinar, and it will be made available in the TDL repository. And I will send everyone a link after the webinar once that's been uploaded. And thank you all so much. I'll pass it on to Ryan.
Thanks, Laura. So as she mentioned, we are recording. It shouldn't be any audio, of course, coming over the recording, but I think that everything in the chat window will get recorded as well. So just something to be aware of, not to type any expletives in there, I guess. So we're going to be going over all of these things in the overview. As we head towards the DSpace5 upgrades, the changes from 4 to 5 have been fairly minor. There have not been any large database changes, or there are no database changes like that. So what we're looking to do actually on this one is going to sound a little risky to some of you, I think, but we're pretty confident because it's basically like you're just pushing new features. We're going to upgrade in place with this working group. They're going to be the first folks who get the upgrade. They're going to be getting it later on this week. And Gad and Effie are working on that right now. So we call it upgrading in place. It's very similar to what we've done in the past with Vireo when we announced that we have a point release, that sort of thing. Now keep in mind the upgrades at DSpace are done as a numbered release every year, but that does not necessarily mean that they've done a complete rewrite every time there's a numbered release. So it'll be a fairly similar process when we go from 5 to 6 in 2016. So again, I want to thank both Gad and Effie. Effie worked with us on the working group as well, and she's been helping wrangle me through this whole process. And she's been doing most of the actual heavy lifting on the TDL end. And Gad is currently working on those upgrades and pulling the code into Git as we speak. So we're going to schedule the remaining DSpaces for January 2016. Before we do those upgrades, we're going to do this webinar one more time. So if you want to hear it again or you want to tell your friends and relatives to tune in, this is where we'll be sometime when we come back in 2016. There is one feature of all of these that we did not include, and that was in this kind of weird automated cover sheet generation that was in there. Susan Elkins took a hard look at it for us, and she kind of demoed it for us. It didn't work particularly well. It was a little weird, and we thought it was going to cause more problems and couldn't really figure out what the bonus was of having it. So We are not including that in of all of the things potentially there from DSpace5. We've got everything else that we've got going in there, but that's not going. Page not found bug fix. It does not mean that the page is not found here. Susan took a look at this for us, and we really appreciate that. And as you may recall in the old DSpace up until this version, when a page wasn't found, it threw this weird cocoon page, and it looked like the system had broken, and people got a little panicky. So they have finally made this look like a real internet page, and it just gives you kind of standard information about the page not being found, who to contact, those sorts of things. But it no longer looks like the system is possibly down and out of business. So we're pretty pleased about that. Are there any questions about that before I move on to the next topic? I'm going to ask that, and these are pretty short little bits, so I'll be pausing quite a bit to ask for questions. All right, Laura's going to keep an eye on that chat window for me. The next thing we're going to talk about is Google Analytics from the DSpace admin UI, and La took a look at this, partially because La has a little bit of experience with Google Analytics for some of the stuff they do up at Texas Tech. We're going to have this in there the way it's set up out of the box, where there's a tag there. You can see at the bottom right, we put a red square around where you'll see it, and pretty straightforward when it pulls. It does give you the ability to select this time range. The stats are going to be grouped into a month for display. So what you're really getting out of this are both page views and file downloads, and it's really the best place if you're using DSpace to see how many actual file downloads. It's not just people who browsed by, read the metadata, and decided that this wasn't the item for them. It gives you an idea of the actual number of file downloads. One of the things that we have not done is, will this work with our existing GA code? I don't know. Yes, it should. I don't know why it wouldn't, but we will definitely take a look at that with you guys as we upgrade. I don't see any particular hiccups there. It's all pretty standard. What we have not done is extend beyond this. This is the okay. I don't believe that this will cause any issues. La has some stuff going on with Google Analytics as well, and he'll be out in front of us, in front of the Baylor upgrade by a bit, and we'll let you guys know what happened with La's upgrade. We haven't extended beyond that. Some folks like Baylor and Tech have already done some other extensions with Google Analytics. We may in the future, depending on requested work out of the membership, if there's something in particular that we think would work well, that may be something that we start looking at as a feature. So, I'm going to pause for a minute while UT Southwestern Medical types. Sure thing. Yeah, we'll be checking in with you guys. This is a great way for you guys to give us a heads up on these sorts of things. The next feature I'm going to talk about is the batch upload via the DSpace UI, or as I like to think of it, the Laura McElfresh feature. We do some batch uploading with some of you. We do a lot of it with Texas A&M Galveston. And it's been I think a chore for you guys to have to do this with us. You have to alert us that you want to do a batch upload. We have to make time. We have to set up a DSpace for you guys to put stuff into and move it over, and it's just not a lot of fun for anybody. But in the new DSpace, all of this will be right in the UI, and you'll be able to do it from there. No more command line work, but you do need to get everything into a simple archive format. And there's lots of instructions around for doing that, including some that our friend and former TDLer Scott Phillips put together. And so it should be pretty straightforward as far as how to get that organized. You'll need to make sure all of your items are put into the correct format, and you can see here that file folder format, and then how the files are actually set up within those folders. And I thought for some reason in my head that this was going to be this huge challenge to delete the .text extension from the file name, but the more I think about it, this is stuff that you guys do all the time and you should be very used to. But just be aware that this is one of the little quirks of this new file upload format. And you can see here how the metadata will display. And so you're going to want to worry a little bit about this. And of course, there's a little bit more information. We have a hyperlink here from the DSpace wiki on the simple archive format. And this gives you an idea of what the UI will look like to actually do this. It's really, really straightforward, maybe a little disarmingly so. So, you know, if you want to go ahead and practice with us, we can set you up in the test DSpace TDL has, and you know, you can run a few tests before you do it in production on your system. And if you do it in production on your system and you have an issue, let us know, and we'll work with you through that. But I think it's pretty straightforward for most of you hardcore DSpace users. And I do look forward to you guys being able to do this without feeling like there's all these extra steps involved to get the work done. Are there any additional questions on this before we roll merrily along? I had not actually heard of Mathjax prior to this showing up as a feature in DSpace, and maybe I should have heard of Mathjax before this, but Laura took a look at this for us. And what it is it's math and science typesetting. It basically gets formulas into your typesetting, and you're able now to put them in through the DSpace XML UI, which is of course what we're using. You do have to provide your own coding. DSpace does not do that for you in any way, shape, or form. We have some information Laura dug up on Mathjax markup and how to work with that, and she did figure out she can't find a conversion engine online. But you never know. The minute we say there isn't one, somebody's going to Google it and find it for us. So we did take a look, but didn't turn anything up. This gives you an idea of how it'll display in the fields. You can see all this is an abstract. That's a location where you might see it for something especially like a thesis or dissertation or students working on a particular item. And this gives you an idea of how it might then display in a DSpace. You can see those are real formulas working in the real world and in a title, and that is not something we have seen in DSpace before. So, and she even got it into the author's name down there. So it's pretty exciting, actually. I think people aren't going to have to be kind of forcing that in through just using the text fields. Like it's a D or a .txt. It's so. Something to look forward to. There is a little bit of extra work, but it's something to offer up to your science and engineering and math departments for sure. I think Baylor has a question here. That is a very good question. I think you'd have to have the Mathjax written into the actual text field of your abstract, and so that may provide a little bit of a challenge for you and the students to get that code in there. So it would probably be extra instructions that you'd have to provide. But that sounds like a really good test for us to run here over the next few weeks. I'm going to go ahead and make a note of that. Try and push some test items from Test Vario over to the Test DSpace and see how that works. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. And now Alex took a look at Orchid for us. I'm not sure I have to tell folks who are on this phone call what Orchid is, but there's a few of you I don't know. I don't think I know Austin or Melinda. But an Orchid is a unique identifier for researchers. It's really easy to sign up for. And DSpace now has a lookup feature that employs Orchid. And you don't have to use it. It's not like something that even if you have it turned on, you have to force into operation. You can just type in authors the way you always have, but it does give you a point of verification for your authors. So there's a new lookup button that has been added. You can see it over here. And so you can, but you still can just type the author's name in. On the left is a list of everybody already in the repository, and if they don't have even if they don't have an Orchid ID associated with them, those are all the folks here. We have a fairly small author list in our test DSpace here. And so, but here you can see what it looks like when the Orchids, if they have an Orchid associated with their name, it'll be displayed in italics. So in this example, Alexandra Mitchell does not have it, Joseph does. And so it's really easy to visualize who's got an Orchid and who doesn't. So you do need to make sure you're selecting the right person, but that's exactly what Orchid IDs are for. And if you need to, you can always look up the person's information by clicking on a link, and the Orchid window will pop up, and you can view their profile information and potentially tell the folks apart there. It's a fairly light tool within DSpace, but it's a nice one, and it seems like a bridge to where things are headed right now with Orchid. And so we're really excited that Orchid is starting to trickle through DSpace, and of course we're using it in Vario, and it's nice to see this kind of starting to populate through the tools that we use. Somebody at Houston has a question, complaint, or comment. I believe it is entered by the user, but you can use the lookup tool. Yeah, I don't think that there's any automated populating of Orchids that's currently going on through this. It's mostly a lookup tool. And if there are no additional questions on the Orchid tool, now we're going to talk about Sherpa Romeo that Alex also took a look at. So I think you guys will mostly know what Sherpa Romeo is. Of course, it's this database about publisher policies around open access. Probably the big hiccup on this is you do already have to have the ISSN number for an item for it to actually be found within this tool. Then if you do happen to have that, there's a color-coded system. So your use for this around something like a thesis or dissertation is pretty much negligible. It's not really relevant. But if you are putting in papers of your researchers, then this may be a really good tool for you to have. And if you submit more than 500 requests a day, you're working too hard. So I don't know if I'm going to finish the rest of that sentence. So in order for the Romeo to work, and if I'm reading off this, it's because this gets a little complicated a little quickly for me. So, but you do have to have the ISSN number of the journal that the article was published in, so make sure you've got that. And from there, the system's color-coded, and it'll give you all of these permissions, and including a gray, if, what is the gray? If it's not in Romeo, and that may be true of a lot of newer open access journals. If it is found, and I actually thought something was wrong with the slide because you have to actually look for it. The information's here. You can see that this particular one is green that we're using as an example. So you can get, if you need to know more info about what those color schemes actually mean, you can go click more info next to the color, and it will take you over there to the more info screen over at the Sherpa Romeo site, and you can get some additional information. Jeannie is busily typing away here. This is a complicated. Okay, Brian, you have next post. It does just pull the color. It's a lookup tool, and so it's up to you to figure out how you're going to implement those restrictions. It does kind of suggest that you just have the knowledge of what those different colors mean, and that's why it has that more info page that will take you over here. And I know this is teeny tiny, but it does have a description of what each of the different color codes do mean for the user. My understanding is that even how the journals themselves interpret this may be there may be some latitude there going either direction. So I would consider it to be a rule of thumb, but not necessarily the written law around anything. But I do think it shows some progress in the both the maturity of DSpace and these tools beginning to work together, and our ability to have more of a cohesive kind of universal system that these different tools are now starting to integrate. Narissa took a look at some performance improvement. There's not much to say about this other than that selecting collections used to be a little bit of a problem in the workflow if you had a whole bunch of collections, and that has now been fixed, and there's a little bit of information about it. I don't know if Narissa has anything else to add about that. I'll let her type in if she does, I suppose, but that's pretty much it. It's now working more efficiently and as expected. Narissa and Robert and La also took a thanks, Narissa. Also took a look at the video and audio features. I do want to thank our technical team. This has been implemented by us. This is not something that was just part of the DSpace overall upgrade. This is something that we've been hearing about from our members for a long time, and every release we wanted to get around to doing it, and so we finally carved out some time and some effort. And this is our first pass at both audio and video players within DSpace. I would expect us to revisit this in the future and continue to improve, as you would always want to. I'm sure we will find things that don't make you guys super pleased with this at some point, but it does basically work. So you can, of course, see it here in the simple item record and how it shows. I'm waiting to see what UT Southwestern Medical has to say. Here with the MP3 video embedded player, you can see you can just play it right there from where the preview area would be in the simple item record. And once you get into the full item record, if you have multiple items, then they just start showing up in order. And you can add some descriptive information about each file. So say you have Laura talking in one clip and Christy's talking in the next clip. You can, of course, separate those out with a bit of a descriptor, but it can remain one large item. It also works as a wave embedded player. And so this gives you an example of that, but it's pretty much the same sort of thing. And so it's fairly flexible. We can play both MP3s and waves. But this all came out of us needing to have a video player. And so we've gone with an HTML5 video player, which should be fairly flexible in 2015. It should play most major video formats. It does allow for some sound adjustment. You can blow it out to a full screen. It's not going to be just in that tiny window. And it keeps basically people from having to download the whole video to their desktop in order to watch it. It is a progressive download. It is not exactly streaming. And you'll basically not be able to tell the difference between streaming and progressive download for the most part. But it does work functionally a little bit differently. This very confusing screen is to tell you kind of, here's all the different formats in theory that we should be able to play using this HTML5 player. Now, people have already started asking us for some standards around this, and so we provided a few. I'm really suggesting the things that you see most online as the kinds of videos. AVI files, movie files, MP4s, ASF, and WMV. Those are, kind of the major ones that you see out there. They're going to be supported longer for both yourselves and for us. And so I would consider that. We're also suggesting about 15 frames a second to help save some space, and anywhere between 320, 240 to 1080. You can put the video in there if you have some super long, gigantic file. That's going to have a lot more trouble playing back for your users, and so you may even want to consider having maybe your access copy here and your preservation copy in DuraCloud or something like that if you have some like full resolution 35 millimeter movies that you've scanned in at like 8K or something. So do talk to us before you start a major video project, but if you do have these files when we upgrade from 4 to 5, it should do the transcoding and all the stuff we need to do, or not transcoding, but interpretation, and it should be able to work pretty much out of the box. Oh, and yeah, you can batch upload videos with DSpace5. It does take a while, so I would do it like set it to go and then go home, or set it to go and then go to lunch or something like that. It's just going to take a while, and if it does, it could potentially slow some things down on your network and your computer and whatnot. This is a little unrelated, but it is related to the video. We are looking to put a 250 gig cap on server space for your DSpaces. And then after that, we're going to start charging. The people who are in danger have already been talked to. And the rest of you, if you haven't heard from me on that, you're free and clear for quite some time. I have our top 8 DSpaces written on my whiteboard next to my desk. So I have a pretty good idea of who's who. And all of you guys, you'll know who you are if you're starting to run into trouble anywhere on that, if we think you're getting anywhere close. The reason I bring that up is video is gigantic. So if you start putting in videos and you put in 10, 25 gig videos, you just got to your cap right there. So it's something to think about as you're going along. And you start getting into storing video in your DSpace. Like I've been kind of hinting around about, not so subtly, this player could have issues supporting different MIME types, and we want you to think, a little bit about how you're going to deal with videos in multiple parts, and so just think a little bit about that. And again, we will be revisiting the media players in 2016, time permitting. Any questions about the media players? Is that a good, bad thing for us to have done? I'm hoping it's good. I think it'll satisfy some of the stuff going on with Narissa and Susan anyway. Robert also took a look at some additional features. The PDF thumbnail generation. So one of the things that people were not happy about in the jump from, I think we were on 1.8 when we went to 4, was that what had previously been a little not very big little PDF thumbnail thing in 1.8 became this big gray box that said thumbnail not available or something like that now in 4. But in 5 now, if you have a PDF, it does generate a thumbnail based on the first page. It's going to be a nightly batch job, so you won't necessarily see them day of when you upload, but 3 in the morning or so, they should all start showing up. So we're pretty pleased with that. It does make it an OCR bit stream. That's pretty exciting. Robert also had the idea of extending what had been the clickable area, which is before had just been download here beneath the thumbnails. We've gone ahead and extended it to where if you click on that image, that thumbnail, it'll start downloading the PDF right there. It's absolutely correct that feels like the right user experience. So I'm almost a little surprised DSpace didn't have that out of the box. And this gives you an idea of what that'll look like then. If you've got, this is a front page of a newspaper that had been turned into part of a PDF, and this whole area now will be clickable, and you won't have to click View to Open in order to get through to there. I do not understand this question. The thumbnails will be primary document importing from Vario? No. The PDF will come in from Vario, and that will then overnight generate a thumbnail. I'm not sure what I said. I'm afraid I said something very confusing. Yeah, it should for everything that's already in DSpace, it should run as a cron job the first day that it's over in the new version, and it should generate that material. It should generate that thumbnail.
Oh, maybe Baylor is wanting to know if there's more than one document. How will they generate?
Oh, the thumbnail. Okay.
Maybe I had that question too.
Okay.
I think
the primary document.
Yes.
So the primary document is always a PDF from Vario to DSpace, and so yes, it will always be that cover page of the PDF. It should be. It is not currently optional, but we could potentially turn it off for you guys, but not on an item by item basis. See, thank you, Laura. Eating brains, and I'm just confused over here, so thank you.
So I will make a great
So University of Houston, what happens if there are some items that it'll probably be the first PDF that's listed just in the list. It is a DSpace5 thing that it generates the thumbnail. Okay. You guys are typing fast then.
Good question.
Yeah. Is there anything else I can help with on? I'm not sure I entirely understand. So you guys would have more than one PDF. Say you have PDFs A, B, and C. If they're in order, I believe it generates it out of A. It'd be the first page out of A. It would be the thumbnail that it would download or that it would present. You'd have to get into the full record document in order to see the rest of them, like you would with any other item. And for Houston's question, again, I think you would have to turn it on and off at the system level. And so you guys could, I guess, think about that. I don't believe you could turn it off at the collection level. Do feel free to shoot me an email if you want me to follow up with a phone call or email. I'm happy to walk through this with you guys and try and answer any additional questions on these features. OAI PMH to OpenAir. There's been some improvement in bug fixes on the OAI PMH, so it should now be following the correct OAI standard. There's a lot of documentation here about the OAI PMH harvesting. And you can see an example here of how it's generating that now. And there is an OAI address validator, so you can always go check against that as well. It's been updated for the OpenAir standard. Of course, a lot of development is going on over in Europe, and I am positive that is why this has been updated in the latest DSpace. I don't believe so. I believe it should continue to operate. If it does impact it, we will alert you. This gives you an idea of what this looks like with the new data provider. We are continuing, if you're in the data management, Dataverse working group right now, you know we've been talking a lot about DOIs and EasyID. We had a presentation from Joan Starr, who will be issuing us our EasyIDs and DOIs. As Orchids will be identifying people, DOIs will likely be one of the standards for all digital objects as we go along. And so we're looking to integrate EasyID with DSpace5 in the future. There's a lot of steps we're having to take to get through this. And that includes, EasyID is a provider of DOIs, if you have not heard of it. Just basically the brand name that they have for the CDL group that issues the DOIs. So we're looking to do EasyID integration into DSpace5 a little bit down the road once we have purchased our own. TDL consortial members, because will soon, with us, it'll be 3 people within the group who have now all joined the Easy ID group, and so everybody else in TDL should get, I believe it's 20% off the cost of joining Easy ID if you want to mint them for your university. So more information on that to come. So just be aware that we're looking at that for down the road. Oh, they are tied to handles in a really interesting way. So we'll be continuing to use handles as we go along. So don't think that this would mean the end of handles for your DSpace. Again, the working group is going to be upgraded first. We're going to be looking at beginning that this week after Wednesday or Wednesday and afterward. We don't think that there's major changes to DSpace. These are just new features and some bug fixes, and so we will be looking to upgrade those folks in place. If you'd like to see what we have learned and the changes to this webinar, I invite you guys to join us again in January. And when we come back from the winter break, we'll be beginning to schedule out the remaining DSpaces who were not part of the working group. And with that, does anybody have any additional questions or any other items for discussion?
And thank you, Bailey, for sending that link to Easy ID. And we'll have more information on the website and send out announcements early next year when we learn more.
Yeah, I will say I believe we have figured out that you guys may need to get your own Easy ID DOI accounts for DSpace so that they remain with your university. We'll get more information out about that, but that's part of the good news about getting that discount on the cost of getting an Easy ID membership. Oh, here comes Christy. I think she's got more info on that. And once you have those Easy IDs, you should be able to apply DOIs to more than just your DSpace. You could use them elsewhere at the university. Yeah, okay, so will this be an option in DSpace5? The question is, in previous conversations, we talked about using the new metadata feature in DSpace to batch correct legacy data. Will this be an option in DSpace5? Yes, and if so, is that part of the batch upload feature? Yes. You should be able to batch upload metadata into DSpace with the batch upload feature. And if the working group who took a look at that wants to jump in here, I more than welcome you to do so. You know, I think it's a new tool. I don't think it would hurt to have a safe place to test something before you go whole hog in there. And so it's, we can talk about it if you guys want to go ahead and just do it once we upgrade you to DSpace5. We will not be stopping you, certainly, but we're more than happy to provide you guys with a sandbox. And if things go horribly, horribly wrong, this is why we do backups on a nightly basis. While I'm pausing here, I do want, okay. Sure, we can absolutely test. Yes, we're going to be putting up a lot of the information that you see here in this PowerPoint and our documentation that we put together internally with the working group. We'll get it cleaned up and put up on the website I think in early January, if not before. I'm looking at Laura, just giving her work while I'm talking out loud here. So all of that is to come for you guys as we go along. Yes, absolutely. Yes, as the new ETD metadata guidelines come out, right? You guys would want to know about that and be able to possibly change your ETDs. I do want to thank the working group again. They put together this slide presentation. Laura actually glued it all together then. And I do want to thank both Effie and Gad again for all of their work on getting DSpace5 ready to go. If there are no additional questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up and say thanks so much. And do not hesitate again to contact either me directly or contact support or info@tdl.org, and we'll be happy to talk to you guys about all of these changes that are coming.
Yeah, and thank you all